Because I just felt that there were a lot of folks out there that were getting the full picture of who we as Latinos are in Connecticut, the diversity amongst us, and I felt that a more balanced offering had to exist, so I created that with a great team of people. And we're doing well, and I'm having fun with it, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it later.
Welcome, everyone. You know, my story is a little bit different, but you may identify a little bit more with it. I grew up here in Hartford. Like Diane, I came to Hartford when I was 2. So, you know, basically, I guess I'm a Hartfordite, right? So, went to Hartford High, graduated from Hartford High, and not really set it out to do anything in communications, but more so my passion in communications came from the side of wanting to tell stories. So I was drawn to theater and performing arts and movies. So that's kind of where I got my start in just this, how it started for me in this area. So I'm a big fan of storytelling. You know, I love to tell stories. I love to read great stories and watch great movies. You know, everyone knows their favorite movie, has teared up over a great story, and just have been immersed in the book. And so for communications, for me, it's all about telling a great story. And one of the opportunities that I've had is to work at Hartford Public Access Television. And so what's interesting about public access television is that you don't necessarily get to tell your own story, but you get to help people tell theirs. And there's such a diversity, so you never know who's going to walk through the door. And you roll with it. And I love, you know, all the different people who would come through, and it was like I was your champion. So if you wanted to talk about, you know, what was happening down at in your community, on your street, at City Hall, you know, we had so many different people come through. Some people were upset about a particular tragedy that happened in their life, and they just wanted to talk about it. And so I was your champion, and I was going to make sure that you had an opportunity to tell your story. So communications is so diverse, and we'll get into all of the diversity of different avenues in communication. But that's me. So my story is I fell into this a little differently than most. It wasn't my set out career path, but I love it now, and I can't imagine doing anything else.
For me, my story is similar in the fact that I stumbled into communications. I love communications, and I'll tell you a little bit about how it happened. When I was in high school, I knew I wanted to go to college, but I didn't know what I wanted to do, and everyone was throwing different ideas at me. And nothing really, I wasn't sure, but I knew I wanted to go, so I took the step and decided to go. When I got to the college, my dad had taken me out there, and I met with one of the college advisors, and I turned to my dad and said, you know what, I need to get a job on campus, I don't have a job. The advisor just said, you know what, I'm the advisor for the TV station. Would you like to work for the TV station? And at that point, I had never touched a camera in my life. I hadn't done anything. But I was like, I'll give it a shot. Sure, I'll try it. Well, it turns out that I did it. This is freshman year. I loved it. I declared my major, and here I am years later, still in the communications field. So my takeaway for you is that sometimes you just have to put yourself out there. You may not know what you want to do, but if an opportunity comes your way, just try it. See what happens. Sometimes it might be the right thing, and sometimes it might teach you that that's not what you want to do. That's part of life as well, learning what you're good at, learning what you're not good at, so you can redirect. So we can talk more about communications, but it's a great field.
Thanks, folks, for having me here today, and I just want to give a shout out to the kids from the Britain and Easy. I'm from the Britain myself, and the Britain's close to my heart, so glad to have you here today. And just like Diane and I are both Britain, so thanks for having me here today. My path to this stage today expanded over the last 30 years or so. I started out wanting to be a sports writer. I remember being a kid, being a teenager, waking up in the morning before going to school and everything, and I would be eating my breakfast and reading the sports page and newspaper sports page. I read from front to cover before I went to school every day, and I wanted to be a sports writer. I didn't know what journalism was. I didn't know what communication was. I knew I loved sports. I was pretty good at English. I knew I loved to write, and I knew I loved stories. And that's what I years, I've been everywhere from a newspaper reporter to columnist. I've been a sports writer. I've been on both sides of the spectrum. I've been in the communication side, where I've been in the PR, which I'm doing now, public relations and marketing, representing clients, to the other side of the communication spectrum, where I was a journalist, where I was trying to find out stories and get information from people to pursue stories. So, you know, I think the key thing in communications is that whether you're a journalist, whether you're a marketing person, or whether you're in communications, or whether you're a videographer, whatever you're doing, it's the story that matters. And I think what Nyesha said is really very, very pertinent here. The story is what attracts people to what it is that you're doing, or what it is that you're promoting, or what it is that you're talking about. And you need to tell it with passion. And if you do your work with honesty, integrity, be accurate, be passionate about it, and be successful.
Okay, thank you. So now what we'll do is we'll open up, we're going to have a series of questions that I will pose, and we noticed that the snacks have arrived. So if, as we're doing this, we welcome you to just quietly, you know, slowly go ahead and help yourself as you're talking, okay? Not all at once. All right. So my first question for the panel. Yes. Yes. All right. And you can hear us as you're. Okay. My first question for the panel is, can you tell us what your educational focus was in school? What were your extracurricular activities? Your educational focus in school, and you want to start?
I'll start. I went to school, as I said, to be a journalist, so I went to the University of Bridgeport and enrolled in their journalism program along with my compadre Lenny. And we go back about 30 years or so. Lenny was in broadcast media and I was in print media as a journalism major at the University of Bridgeport. So that was my entire focus. I wanted to be a reporter, and that's what I pursued in college. As far as extracurricular activities, naturally I wrote for the school newspaper. I started that in high school. And pursued it again in college. And I think one of the most valuable experiences I had in college in pursuit of this career was the internships that I had. I started internships with the New Haven newspapers as early as my sophomore year in college. And quite frankly, as valuable as my college education was, it was the learning on-the-job experience as an intern in the New Haven newspaper that I got that I found just totally valuable my future career. So I would recommend to you folks pursue career-related pursuits outside of your classroom activities. And even if you're not sure of your career, pursue extracurricular activities of interest that you think of that can possibly turn into careers.
Well, I'll be glad to go next. I have to tell you that I was not focused, and I went off to college through an EOP program, which was the first year for disadvantaged students. And I was one of 7 Latinos in that class, and got to college, had myself a great time, I might add, and it's probably not what I should say here, but you know, you kind of have to be realistic. And I took care of business, took my classes, and did my work. But I will tell you, every time I took a class, because I had no guidance, my parents didn't have a clue what I was doing. They were like, oh, she's going to college, thank God. That's, you know, they didn't know. They couldn't provide me guidance. And so if I took an education course, oh, I was going to be a teacher. Then I took a psychology course. I loved it. Oh, maybe I'll go into psychology. Then I did sociology for a while. And I'll be very honest, I took a year off from school because I realized after a year or two, I had all of these credits, and I thought, I don't know where I'm heading. And I had never been since I was 6 months old in Puerto Rico, so I went and lived there for a year. And when I came back, there were a number of different experiences that I had that I said, you know, if I'm going back to school, I'm going to do communications. I was introduced to it, it fascinated me, and at that point I was a little more mature. I was 20 now and a little more focused, and made Dean's List and took off, and I've never looked back. So once I did do that for extracurricular, my senior year, now I'm started this really junior year, then at senior year, I did do a number of interns, and I was really fortunate. I knew it was media, it was broadcast, and I did some internships at NBC, where I started, and also at FSB. And so as a result of that, when I graduated, I was probably one of the few people in the class who had a job in the business. And I started, you know how much I made when I started? $7,000 a year. And I was so excited. I would have given them $7,000 for the job. I was so excited. And I said, sweet Lord, because I had a job at NBC in a TV station. And I learned a lot. I learned so much. And so that those internships lead you to paid positions eventually.
Well, I graduated from Harvard High, not really knowing what I wanted to do. I was kind of interested in the law, so not being from Means, I went to Manchester Community College and enrolled in the paralegal program. And I really enjoyed it. I said, this could be an entryway into possibly being an attorney one day. Because I did find the law fascinating and how processes work and things like that. But then I signed up for a theater class and fell in love with performing. And I think, I'm kind of being calm right now, but I'm really at hand. Like, I really could grab this mic and just perform for you. But I loved it, and it was an awesome experience. And so through my church, we did a lot of that type of stuff, not the traditional kind of choir singing, reading hymns kind of things, but the pastor of the church that I belonged to actually did movies. He would take the camera out and go grab some volunteer actors and put together these productions. And so I started volunteering, just doing that. So it led into then my next employment opportunity at the public access station. So my focus was not communications or journalism or media in that sense. It was more, I really love performance and theater. And so communications has a lot to do with that, and stage presence and all of that. So yeah, like Diane, I wasn't necessarily focused on this, but you fall into it, and then you are presented with different opportunities as they come your way. And being prepared for them is key as well. So when the opportunity came to work at the public access station, I was nervous about it because, that was not my background, but I was prepared for the challenge. And we'll talk a little bit more about when opportunity comes your way and being prepared for it a little later on. But so that's kind of my story.
Well, to continue on what I was talking about earlier, so I was at the TV station freshman year. I fell in love with television, and I declared my major, and the school I was at, it was broadcasting was the focus, and I was kind of that person a little different in the fact that I just kind of chose and said, this is what I'm going to do, and stepped into it completely. So my extracurricular activities were the TV station on campus and the newspaper on campus. So I worked for both of them, which, depending on how much sleep you like, it may or may not have done that for you. There's a lot of writing and a lot of, at the station, the place where I was, there was a lot of shooting. We did shot the football games on campus. We did a lot of things that really made it like a real job. And that was a great experience for me. And so, I basically poured myself completely into the communications field. And what happened was that I came in at the beginning, sitting here with my dad in front of that advisor, not ever had touched any sort of camera equipment. So at the end of my time at the school where I was running this campus station, they literally had me running it, and the advisor said, this is your baby. And so it just shows how you can literally, if you pour yourself into something and say, you put yourself to it, you can really go far with it. And here I am later, now, still within that field.
And I want to emphasize that in order for student groups to produce a myriad of student productions and newspapers, there's collaboration that needs to happen and teamwork that needs to happen. So my next question is about that. Outside of your own company currently, right now, what communication professionals do you collaborate with on a regular basis?
Well, I can tell you, I collaborate with everybody. I'm the queen collaborator. I have two businesses, the Alberio Company, which is a public relations and marketing firm. Let me tell you, life is about partnerships, networking, and collaborating. And in that, I work with larger agencies, independent folks to go after projects, to go after business. And we work together on that. So that in that sense, I collaborate quite a bit. Actually, two of the projects that I'm involved in right now, public relations, public information campaigns. One of them this past summer was underage drinking. And that came out around the graduation and prom season, and I worked with a larger ad agency on that. On CT Latino News, which is the second business, we partner and collaborate with everyone we possibly can. And we actively seek out. Actually, I was working with your president a little while ago and saying, hey, can we do a little more? And already Capital Community has been wonderful. And I'm just thinking, my gosh, look at all these potential writers. Look at all these potential video people. And even Mike was here a little earlier, who runs your TV department, and I said, do the students do news? Do they have little clips? We'll put them on our site. So, collaboration, you constantly have to think outside your world and look at what else is out there. It helps. There's a lot of reasons for it. There's that idealistic reason that this is great, I can help give people opportunities. I had some opportunities early on, people opened doors for me. I can help open doors. It's good for business. There's just so many reasons for it. So I can't say enough about collaborating with every partner you possibly can.
I would echo that. So right now, I'm communications manager at Chief Hartford, and so we do advocacy. And advocacy basically is just, sticking up for someone else. Your parents usually are your biggest advocate. They're the first person to stick up for you. And so that's really what advocacy is all about. So, that requires tremendous collaboration across every facet to get people to work together. But one of the areas where I particularly collaborate with others is in just video and technology, because it's ever changing so quickly. And so there's always a new camera that comes on the market, or there's always a new editing program that comes on the market. There's a new social media platform that comes on the market. And so you collaborate with others to just learn new skills. And so I'm always reaching back to other colleagues in the video business to say, hey, did you see that new Canon or that new Panasonic? And what tips do you have on, shooting in low light? And, so those kinds of collaborations are effective because it just builds your own capacity and your skill set to do better and greater work. And you have a colleague then that you could rely on in a pinch. And that happens a lot of times at work or even in, in the video business where, you have to get to that production or that wedding you're shooting and, you can't redo a wedding. You have to be there on time and get that shot. And so if you could call someone, if you could call a colleague that you trust, you could say, hey, can you fill in and get the second shot for me? Things like that. So collaborating with other people is valuable in that sense as well.
So I work for NBC, which is a television station, but my role is Director of Community Projects. So Director of Community Projects means I plan events and I find ways for the station to be involved in the community. And with that job, there is a lot of collaboration. Really, collaboration means working with other people. And so one of the fun parts of my job is when my phone rings, I literally do not know who is on the other line. It could be someone like you wanting some information about an internship. It could be a senator who ended up in my phone trying to find out information about something that they're doing and they want to get the word out on air. It could be a teacher wanting a field trip for their class. It could be anyone. And so collaboration for me is anytime I pick up the phone, whoever is there is an opportunity for me to work with them. Because there's many times that they've called me and I take down information and you know what, I actually need some help with something. You can help me out. And when we talk about collaboration, I know at some point we'll probably need to talk about networking. I like to say, you know, if you look around the room, the networking and the collaboration starts now with the people that you see around you, your friends, because you don't know where everyone's going to end up, and your teachers. So you can begin collaborating now, working with the people around you to get to where you're trying to get to.
And I'll just be brief. The collaboration is key to everything. I'm currently operating as a public relations consultant, as Diane is. I'm a one-man band. I've been working in my home office for the past 15 years, all by myself. I don't have a secretary. I don't have graphic designers on staff. I don't have writers. I don't have media buyers. So these are the kinds of people that I have to work with to complete the work and to execute the projects that I work on. If I'm doing an annual report, I need a graphic designer, I need a printer. If I'm doing an ad campaign, I need a media buyer, a designer, and so forth and so on. So, and the thing is, with regard to collaboration and networking in many ways are kind of the same thing. You may need to collaborate with people to execute a project, okay, to get a job done. But in the process, you're also networking. You're building your network of people. You never know when down the road you may be wanting to look for a job change or whatever. So, you know, that person that you completed this project with 6 years ago may just be the contact that you need to advance your career later on down the road.
And sometimes you encounter someone from your past, you know, that you made a connection with, and then you re-encounter that person, and a whole new project starts from there. The next question I have has to do with just that, projects. Many of the projects that we take on in our professional lives are just that, projects. But some are truly, you know, that we really feel invested in, and we feel a high degree of motivation. So my next question to you all is thinking in terms of a project that truly motivated you, that really spoke to your core. You know, describe a certain project, a favorite project, perhaps, that you are doing either recently or in the past.
I'll go. I think you already know. How did you guys see Latino news? I'm telling you, it's just, we went for a grant, we won this last spring at National McCormick Foundation, JLab, for innovative media ideas. And I saw, oh, let's go apply for this. And we did get it. And I, you know, part of what I had to say there is, and it helped me think it through, when you have to write and explain to people why you're doing what you're doing. And it really is just all the skills I've acquired over many years now in business. I have business skills. I've run my own business for 17 years. You gotta have that. You know, you really have to understand, you know, where your revenue's coming from, what the profit margin is on your product or your services. Is this worth my while? So you've got to have those business skills, because, you know, great ideas, but if you can't pull it off as a business, and we pay our writers, we have expenses, so dollars have to come in. So I have that. My writing skills, you know, it's, again, I say this because it is a little ironic, because early on in life, going through school, I was unsure of my writing and my speaking skills. And you know, I'm going to pat myself on the back. I'm a heck of a writer. I'm a very strong writer. I can write opinion pieces. I've written a book. Let me tell you, when they approached me, I said, oh my goodness, do they know who I am? And you know, it's sold on Amazon.com. And so that over the years, obviously, I'm much more confident with my writing skills, news skills, editing skills. So that was a piece too. So we have the business, the writing, all of that networking, you know, that we've talked about. Boy, is that coming back and being really helpful. That collaboration, partnerships, all of that is coming back too. My media, my broadcast training in terms of visual, producing brochures, whatever it is that I've done over the years, the visual to not just tell the story, but how do we illustrate the story. So that, you know, I can bore you with this, but I'm just so thrilled that at this point, we've created a project, I've helped create a project that opens doors for a lot of Latinos to helps manage, let me word it that way, the perception of Latinos amongst ourselves and others as well. Too often it was too narrow of slice, and we wanted to provide a more balanced view of who Latinos are in the state. Currently, in this state where there's 3 million, we are approaching 600,000 Latinos. It's not going to be long before we're 1 million. In your lifetime, definitely. That's 1/3 of the state. So we work together. It's good for the region. We're going to work together. We're going to live next to each other. It's important that everyone understand each other. So you can hear the passion in my voice. I'm just thrilled that I found this project.
When you set out in communications, communications has some basic goals. And so, you're either writing a story, capturing it on video, capturing something in an image, but basically you have a goal that you're trying to accomplish with that particular piece. And so a recent project that I worked on was we were trying to accomplish 2 things. We wanted to get parents to attend a workshop about having their children be ready for kindergarten. But outside of just attending a workshop, if you didn't attend the workshop, what we wanted the image to do, or this particular communication to do, was just to get you to stop and think and to process, how are you as an advocate for your child. So the thing that made it one of my favorite projects, and we produced a series of 4 posters. And so this poster was to accomplish those 2 goals. One was to get you to stop and think when you saw it, but secondly, to attend this workshop. And we produced some really great images. We worked with an outside graphic designer on this project, but here's how I know I met one of my goals, is because the first poster that we put out, we received some angry feedback. People were upset by the images that we used. And, in communication sometimes that's going to happen. Not everyone is going to be happy with what you put out in the atmosphere. And so I was not put off by that. It was like, yeah, I did my job. I got a response. So I was happy about that because I provoked people in a way that they wanted to respond. And that's one of the goals in communication. So we didn't get the high number of turnout for the workshop, so that wasn't great. So I failed on that one, but you live to work again another day, right?
For me, my favorite project was it is still working on the NBC Connecticut Health and Wellness Festival. And I'll give you the background on it. I've been at NBC Connecticut for 9 years. I had been at the station for 1 year, so this is going back to about 2005, 6, around that time. And I was working in a different role than I am in now. And they said, we want to give you a promotion, we want to move you from this producer role to run the community projects for the station. And here's what we want you to do as your first project. We want you to put together a festival that's going to bring thousands of people to the Connecticut Convention Center. We're thinking like 15,000 people, and you're going to plan it. And it's going to have all kinds of extras there. We're going to have, politicians there. We're going to have community outreach opportunities, people getting free screenings, and this is your baby. You have to make it work. Go. And now you have to understand, I, at that point, I'll be completely honest, had never even planned a birthday party. To be honest, I've always gone to birthday parties, but I never even planned one. And so I'm thinking, how am I going to do this? And I was a little nervous. I'm like, all right, this might be a little too much for me. But you know what? I put myself out there. Okay, let me give it a try. And that's what I really want you to remember. Just put yourself out there. Let me take the first step and let's do it. And so that project is now still going on. There's one happening next September. And it was successful. And when the first one happened, I looked at it and said, wow, there's people here. And they're having a good time. And people are finding out information to help improve their lives, and they're getting their flu shots, and they're finding out their blood pressure, they're getting bone density scans, and they're walking away. We're getting emails back from the public saying, hey, that was a good event, I learned something, or maybe that information helped save my life. And so, you can look back and say, wow, I actually put myself out there, and it actually turned out well. And part of it is knowing what you can do and what you can't do, and knowing the skills that are needed. And part of that was forced me to organize. And so being organized and knowing how to direct people, how to speak to people. We talk about collaboration. There's a lot of collaboration that goes into that event. I actually have an intern who works on that event every year. So if anyone's interested in an internship, let me know. And putting yourself out there is what I expect from my intern. Literally, I do the same thing just as that project landed in my lap. I asked that intern saying, okay, guess what? I need a rock wall. Find me a rock wall. Here's your budget, go. And they're like, what do? Start with Google, see if you can find one. So it's literally just, okay. And so you kind of have to have that attitude. So just pursuing your communication path or whatever you decide to do in that way, saying, I'm going to put myself out there and take the first step. That's the best way to get going.
And Emma, we were talking the nightmare intern and the dream intern. Can you just...
So interns, we get a lot of them at the station, and and I'm going to talk in generics. We've had some really what I call rock star interns that it's like they're leaving and you're crying, like, please, I wish you could stay for a little bit longer. We need to go back to school. And there's some that it's like, you know what, it wasn't, and the difference is the interns who ask questions and will take the time when somebody says, when you go to them and say, do you need any help, and they say no, they're a little more persistent. Maybe ask a few more questions. They're not the ones that walk away and maybe say, oh, let me just go play on Facebook on my phone until someone tells me what to do. They're the ones who network within the station. Some of my best interns would know everyone in the station, even if I had to introduce them. Oh, I met the producer down there and she da-da-da-da, and they're working on this project. Do you mind if I go over there and help her? Yes, absolutely. And so when you do an internship, and I want to make sure everyone knows what an internship is. An internship is basically when you go to work for a station or an entity, and you're not really getting paid with dollars, you're getting paid with experience, and you're getting college credit. And so it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not getting any money for this. They're asking me to do all this stuff, I'm not getting any money. But it's totally something that is going to advance your career forward, because many of our interns are now employees, they're my colleagues. And so.
Can I just say something about those interns too, the nightmare ones? I will tell, and there's some wonderful ones, obviously, and the wonderful interns are the ones who scope the place out and say, what can I learn from this? I have to tell you, we had an intern, and he was, if you looked at Young Republicans and you looked it up in the dictionary, there he was. That would be his picture. And he interned for CT Latino News. And nothing, no background, from Simsbury, no background. And he tickled me. I would assign him some things, and the first thing he'd do, he'd start Googling and try to learn. He knew nothing, tried to learn. Now let me give you the other example. This just happened, and I sent the last email yesterday. Someone was referred to us for an internship in January. So my first response was, look at our site. Have you looked at our site yet? No. Yeah, kidding me? Yeah, look at the site and see what's online. So she looks at it. And I said, what I'd like you to do is, what could you do? How can you help us? What work can you do? You can look at photographs, you can look at this, you can look at that. Looks at it, we're English language, 70% of Latinos speak English. Well, I think it should be in Spanish. Well, I don't think this is a good fit for you. So I said, okay, take a look at this again. I explained the U.S. Census figures. I spent more time than usual, and I know I did. Gets back to us, well, then what do you want me to do? Do you know what? You need to look at something and just offer, I love that term, put yourself out there. Say, well, I can try to write that. I'm searching for that answer. I'm not expecting a Pulitzer prize-winning writer. You're a sophomore in college. But if this young woman had at least said, I can try to write some stories, obviously we give her the really easy ones and try to edit them for her. But not even. It was, what can you do for me? You're not going to be successful if you sit there and wait for folks to help you. You need to get out there and figure out, how can I get myself in this position or that position? I really wanted to say that.
Can I just add one thing? I was just sitting here thinking about interns that we've had. And there's two particular interns that stick out to me. One of them was, I actually at that moment didn't have anything for him to do. He found his way down to the web team. and was talking to them and saw on our website that they had at that time slideshow. So that's when you go on a website and you see a photo and you click, you see the next photo, and it's kind of like a theme. It could be, Hollywood stars who changed their name or whatever it is. And he decided, you know what? I know this really cool, I have this lighthouse that's near where I live, and I'm going to take some photos, and I'm going to put together a slideshow and see if they take it. Sure, here, try it. They took it, and you know what? He called me, they said, you know what? We actually ended up putting your intern state on the website, and now the NBC national team in New York is asking who put that on there because we're getting a lot of clicks on it. It actually is, it's working. So you have to understand that sometimes you all have knowledge. Communication is great because everyone has their own piece of what they see in the world. And you bring your own knowledge base, that you know something that I don't know. And you and your friends find it interesting. And in communication, and in television especially, we want to get you to watch. We want to get you to click to our website. And so you need to come in saying, you know what, I may not be an expert on everything, but I'm an expert on what I know in my world, and I can maybe share that with you.
I know, Jennifer, that we've gotten off the track a little bit here, but no, we've got to continue with this internship thing, and really what it is about your passion for what you want to do, that, you're at a particular point in your life. I wish I was there again, but you guys are at a point in your life where you have the world open to you, okay? And it's all about how you insert yourself into the world and apply yourself into the world. And I'll just tell one quick story about the internship thing, which was so important to my career in college. I was a sophomore in college. I lived in New Britain. I went to school in Bridgeport. I was home for the summer after my sophomore year. 2 years of college under my belt, journalism student, doing okay, and I had nothing to do for the summer, okay? So I still, at that time, wanted to be a sports writer. I was a newspaper journalism major. I went down, I decided it was probably in June, right after getting home from college. I walked down to the Britain Herald newspaper. You guys from the Britain know the Herald. I went down there because I wanted to be a sports writer. I walked in the door, got up the elevator, walked up to the sports department, and introduced myself to the sports editor and the assistant sports editor. They didn't know who I was. I was a 19-year-old kid, okay? I said, listen, I'm a journalism student. I go to school in Bridgeport. I live here in Britain. I have nothing to do for the summer. I want to write for you guys. And they were like taken aback. It was Bill Miller and Bart Fisher at the time. And, I was just a skinny little kid, and they, what they did? They sent me to Miss Porter's school on a Saturday night to cover a badminton exhibition. Okay? Now, I wrote a story about a badminton exhibition at Miss Porter's school in Farmington. They put it in a newspaper, and that started an entire summer of covering different events, sports events. And by the time I graduated from college, I had a whole flip book. I actually graduated with a job at the Daily Register because I had to apply myself. Okay, so it's just now. I remember doing a presentation in the British Chamber a few years back when Bill was still there, and Bill introduced me, and he told this story about the badminton story. About the kid walking into his office, and he said to me, and I'll tell you something, it was the best damn badminton story I ever read.
So I think what I'll do now is, just in the interest of time, I'm going to combine the last two questions. So what are your best do's and don'ts? I think we've heard many of them already, but any others that you have, your best do's and don'ts, or don'ts and do's, and where do you see the field headed?
Well, I'll tell you, the do that I think has carried me through my career and has been very varied on regional, local, and national level is, I don't know that I don't know how to do things. And it's kind of silly, but I don't know. I start a business, and then 5 years later I think, gosh, innocent, being naive is a good thing. Because then you learn everything. Even this online, I said, okay, so what's there to it? You get yourself a website, I put some stories up, it's a little bit more complex, but the challenges are fascinating. So sometimes being naive, and what is that, ignorance is really there. So you can't think, I don't know how to do it, because you don't know that yet. So I think it's that, the do, I would say, is the, you find something interesting and you say, let me try it. It's an opportunity. Someone asked me to go to China for the Ford Foundation, and I thought, oh my goodness. I went. I said, okay, that's really far. My girls are really little, they were 3 and 5, and I said, can I go to China? And I ended up writing a chapter for a book for the Ford Foundation. So that sometimes I think I can't do that. And I have to tell you this quick little story that I learned midway through my career. I was part of an executive group that went to Colorado for a Colorado Outward Bound program for ALF. And I'm a city girl. I grew up in the brick. I mean, you know, I didn't even climb a tree, I gotta tell you. So I get out there and I think, okay, I got this far. I'm taking all the executives down, you know, what are them? And then they put you on this road course. And the first day I said, I can't do that, I can't do that. And I didn't do it. And I, you know, that night in bed, I'm thinking, okay, Diane, you got yourself this far. What are you going to do the rest of the week? So the second day, I had to do a little mental game with myself here, you know, because I was so shy. I mean, I'm just not outdoorsy like that. And the second day, it was a rock climbing wall. But not a walk, it wasn't a real walk. It was, you know, and I thought, you know, but I said, okay, I'm going to go for this. I'm going to go for this. And I remember looking at it, thinking, I can't do it. How am I going to do it? And if I can leave you with that, that's just so important. Instead of doubting yourself and lacking confidence, say, how can I try to do this?
Yeah. Kudos. Yeah.
And I made it up the wall.
So my do, it's kind of in that same vein as do be a self-starter. You know, and that goes back to the internship, you know, because even once you find that job, and not every day is going to be an exciting day, you know, not every day you are rock climbing and scaling walls. So if you are a self-starter, you find the interest in everything, and that goes down to even the mundane grunt work that you find yourself doing from time to time. It just, as a self-starter, you can find interest in the small things. So do be a self-starter. And then don't close the door on opportunities for yourself. You know, when Emma, I think, had said, if you look around the room, the people in the room are your peers, and it's funny because you may find yourself 6 years from now looking across the desk at the same faces that you see here today. So don't close the door of opportunity by looking at someone and being judgmental or assuming that you know something about them, because you will find that your career paths all lead you together. Like, I've worked with Diane in the past.
And I worked with Emma, and I worked with her, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, if at somewhere along the road, you know, I said, well, you know, that Diane out there, you know, and I can't work with her.
And she never said that.
Never. And who knows? I mean, CT Latino News is a wonderful project that I would love to collaborate with Diane at some point in the future. So never close the door on your opportunities, or see everything as an opportunity.
Yes. Including badminton tournaments.
Yeah, that's a good story.
There are so many things I can tell you, and I have so many things written down, but in the interest of time, I'm going to work fast, but just take it all in. One of the things, ask questions. Don't let anyone tell you not to ask questions. Ask questions, because knowledge is power. And a lot of times, you don't want to ask questions because you feel silly, you feel stupid, they're going to think something about me, and who cares? The knowledge is more important. Ask the question, because a lot of times the chances are you're the one asking the question that everyone else is thinking. So ask questions. Be flexible, and this is something that kind of goes into the internships. For me, my very first internship was 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. at the NBC station in Springfield, Missouri. I worked with the overnight producer writing stories for the morning newscast. I said yes to the shift, and you know what? It worked out for me. And so what I'm getting at is, don't just think, I'm not doing that. Because you know what, that gave me, the opportunity for that was that I had one-on-one time, there was no one else in the station except for me and this one producer. I picked his brain all the way through. I knew everything and how his career started, where he was going, what he was doing next, and I learned so much from that. So, you know, be flexible. Don't box yourself into what you can do. You know, one of the things that it was kind of a new term for me is, we all know what an interview is, right? You can go try to go for a job interview. Have you all ever heard of informational interviews? Informational interviews means that you can go in and talk to somebody, and they might not have a job available to you, but you might just be interested in just getting to know them. And so just shooting them an email or calling them up and saying, you know what, can I just sit down for 20 minutes with you and just kind of chat with you and pick your brain? That is so valuable, because that is the beginning of a relationship and networking. And you know, they may or may not say yes, but you know, be persistent, ask, maybe wait a few weeks, ask again. But informational interviews is a term that you might want to stick in the back of your brain, because you were trying to think of, I want to get to work for this company. I want to work for ESPN. I want to work for NBC. You know, and they don't have anything over me. They said no, there's nothing there. But maybe this informational interview, just sit and talk to them. Because once you're in front of them, you kind of can show yourself. And I'll just choose one more from my sheets. I have so many here. I guess I really, you know, I really want to, for some reason I'm stuck on this put yourself out there, because I really think that a lot of times, I've been there, you know, you're scared, you're not sure what to do. Everyone's like, what do you want to do for college? What do you want to do for work? You're like, you don't know yet. But you know what? Just choose a direction and just take the step and try it out. You know, real quick question. So, real quick story. So this past Wednesday, do anybody watch SNL, Saturday Night Live? You ever heard of it? Well, there's a segment on there, Weekend Update. There's a guy on there, Seth Meyers, and he's the one who does Weekend Update. He cracks jokes about different stories, things that are going on in the news. Well, he's getting a new show. He's taking over for some Jimmy Fallon, he's taking over for Jay Leno. Anyway, he's actually moving up into his career. He decided to do a tour of the country, and he actually started off in Hartford. And he wanted to talk to some of the people in our station and get a chance to kind of say, hey, watch my show, it's starting after the Olympics. So he came to the station, and I invited some press people to come out. And I invited this reporter from New Britain, actually, and he came out, and I didn't know anything about it. And so I took him in the room and kind of gave him the lay of the land, saying, okay, this is what you can do, this is what you're not going to do, your photographer can do this, you know. And afterwards, he was like, how are my questions? I was like, sounded great. I'm taking him down the elevator. Turns out, this is his very first interview he's ever done. He's 6 months, just graduated. This is his first time he's ever done anything like this. I didn't know. I had no idea. I heard his questions. He was asking, what's your funniest skit you've ever done? And there were just typical questions that anyone would ask, but he put himself out there, and you know, it was just really interesting for me once I said goodbye and I shook his hand. I was like, good for him. He put himself out there and he did it. And I knew no different that it was his first time. Anyway.
I'll just say that getting to interview Seth Meyers is a better first story than Tony Hawk. I'll tell you that. But anyway, I'll be brief too. Do be honest. Honest with yourself and honest with others. And that really applies to everything in life, and not only your career. Don't try to fool over anybody's eyes. Don't be a phony. Be yourself, okay? And people will appreciate that. When you're in a job interview, when you're interacting with people, be yourself, okay? In this business, the communication business, whether you're a reporter or whether you're a PR guy representing an interest, be accurate. Accuracy is everything, okay? It's really a challenge these days because media is moving so fast with social media, Twitter, and so forth and so on. The way people are getting their news these days and the way people are communicating and interests are communicating across multiple platforms, you know, that doesn't change the fact that accuracy needs to be at the top of your list of what you do, okay? And again, you guys are at a stage in your life where you're just kind of exploring what you're going to do with your life. I say be passionate, okay? You have to love what you do, okay? And right now, you're not necessarily sure what you're going to do with your career. Some of you may go into communications, that's why you're sitting here today, which would be great. But again, as everyone here has said, you know, go out there, try different things, experience different things. You're not going to know what you want to do with your life until you get into the fray and start learning about what it is, what the options are out there. Try different things, extracurricular activities, pursue internships, go have informational interviews. You know, if you have an organization in your hometown or a group or a company, knock on their door and find out what they're about. They'll be impressed.
piggybacking on that, there are so many different avenues in communications to find out about. So, you know, for all of us sitting here on the panel, we're in different types of fields, but all under the umbrella of communication. So you only find those opportunities by going and trying new things, you know. So you may volunteer at your church running the camera, and that may open the door to another opportunity. Or if you go on one of those informational interviews, as Emma stated, and maybe the person you're talking to, you're not necessarily interested in their job, but it's actually the other department down the hallway that really piques your interest, but you won't know unless you put yourself out there. So, but the communications field is so broad, and there's so many different avenues and opportunities out there that you just have to go and explore.
I just want to say one thing. Number one, when I decided to get into this business, you would never have found diversity here. You just would not have found Black or Latino people in our industry, because I was always the first one. I was always the one. Lenny too, they're always the only ones out there. But what I wanted to say is, I came through the ranks with that label minority, and let me tell you, it's a label. Do not let other people define who you are. And my view is that's your issue. If you perceive me as a minority, which kind of has this connotative meaning of less than, if you think about it, very quickly, I was Puerto Rican. I'm Puerto Rican. I remember I had never been to Puerto Rico, and I'm here in Puerto Rican. You're Puerto Rican, you're minority, Puerto Rican. So I go to Puerto Rico. And I said, okay, let me find out what this is all about. Well, there they called me La Americana. So I said, okay, this is it, I'm Diane. Do not let people put labels on you and define who you are. You define who you are.
Thank you so much to our panelists. Now what we're going to do is ask you to apply some of your own creativity and come up with a question, because we do want to get you in the practice of asking questions. We're going to ask our panelists to get up and actually come to your tables and interact with you briefly. So you'll be meeting them personally, and this is your chance to ask questions.